Oh my God, he's early.
Oh.
You're early.
When you move over the colour up in Scotland?
No, if I put colour on, it just shows how sunny it's been today, and I've gone red.
So that's what. There's no software thing. This is literally hardware that you've done this with.
Yeah, on the camera, I've just.
No, Julian. Hi, I'm Mike Brampton.
And my name is Julian Ho.
Welcome to Veterinary Ramblings. Well, what a week we've had, eh?
What a week. Thank goodness it's not raining, eh?
Well, it's not raining here, but then we're in the southern tip of England, aren't we?
We are very much in the southern tip of England and grateful for it. And all sorts of nasty things happen up north, don't they?
Up north, indeed. And well, it's grim up north, of course.
It's grim, always grim.
It's always grim. However, we have got a special guest tonight who actually comes from Oop North.
Oop North? Really? What? Not north of the border?
Another one.
It's going to be a habit, isn't it?
Yes,
who is it?
Well, tonight's special guest, is a fabulous gentleman by the name of Fraser Yule.
Fraser! Oh, Fraser's a great old buddy of mine. He's fantastic. So now Fraser is sales manager for Mount International Ultrasound Systems.
Right.
They do ultrasound machines, reserviced ultrasound machines and CT scanners. So we ought to chat to him about all sorts of imaging stuff.
So let's get our guest in and we'll start and I'll give a bit of a background.
Great.
So where is Fraser? Fraser's here. Good evening, Fraser.
Good evening, everybody.
How the
Hi, Fraser.
I'm very well, yourselves?
Absolutely fantastic. Julian's just introduced you as the sales manager for a company called Myas, an ultrasound and imaging company.
Ultrasound, CT, and MRI. Yep.
Wicked. And we can't help but notice that you're in black and white. Is this because colour hasn't reached the internet in Scotland yet?
It takes a while to get there. It won't be colour now for about 20 years or so.
Right.
Yeah. But it has been so sunny today, I have turned red, and this is a way of avoiding you seeing that.
Fair enough. Well, as Julian said, he's introduced you as sales manager for Myas, but that leaves us for me to share my screen, and my research is on your good self. So I've done a lot of research on you, Fraser, and I've come up with this particular image here. You'll notice, Julian, this is a black and white image of an egg.
Well, it's black and white. Is that an egg, or is it actually Fraser?
It's from the back.
Yeah.
Oh, right. This is your profile picture, is it?
Self-portrait. There's a smiley face on the front.
Okay.
Always.
Fair enough. All right. So I did come up with this.
There I am.
Mike, what were you actually Googling? Because that doesn't look like Fraser, does it? For one thing, it's in colour. But what?
Yeah.
Who is that?
Well, it just came up as Fraser's Yule, and there was this picture of him here. And as I've only met Fraser face to face maybe once or twice, and I'm not a man for faces, I assume that this character here on the left is.
To be fair, Julian, I do have hair, but in sympathy with you guys, I took it off tonight.
It's very good of you.
That's
very good of
you.
It's a lovely head of hair in that photo, Fraser. It really is.
It was difficult to get rid of it.
Fraser photography. Okay.
Now that's Fraser, isn't it, Fraser?
So that's Fraser. So,
yep.
Gosh, actually, they're fantastic. I'm really impressed with those photos. That's not you, is it, Fraser? I think
No.
Mike's fucked up. So,
I got the photos right, and they're in black and white.
Yeah, there are some colour photos somewhere.
But that wasn't you, though, was it? The colour.
No, it definitely wasn't me.
Could we get the girl in, perhaps, in a week or so?
Yeah, that'd
just
be
thinking
nice.
out loud. Yeah, feel right. Yeah.
Can you introduce us?
Yeah, do you know her?
Oh, I know everybody up here.
There aren't that many, are you?
No.
Yeah, tiny.
But for those viewers and listeners, Fraser has got an eclectic collection of old vintage Italian motorcycles, which
Old, possibly not vintage.
well, I don't know. The one I saw the other day was definitely vintage, and it was at least 40 years old, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Actually, what does that make?
Being a Scotsman, and I keep them until they're that age, and then I use them because they're free of tax and free of MOT.
Yes, I've heard that. You do the same with £5 notes, don't you?
Yeah, all of mine are now out of circulation, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's the £1 notes that are really annoying me. They're really piling up, and I can't use them anywhere.
Well, you can surely just use them to wrap around your halfpenny bits, can't you?
I think that's a bit cruel, actually.
That wasn't a euphemism, by the way.
I may as well get it over with. I mean, how was copper wire invented?
No, go on. How was copper wire?
How was copper wire? We do a joke at the end, Fraser. But
Many jokes. That was a Scotsman and a Yorkshireman fighting over a penny.
I love the story of Tommy Cooper, who was apparently a well-known spendthrift, who used to get a taxi home, and he'd get something. He'd say to the taxi driver, "There you go, have a drink on me, have a drink on me." And he'd put this thing in the taxi driver's pocket, and he'd say, "Oh, thanks, Gov, yeah, thanks very much." And off he'd walk, and they'd reach in, and there'd be a tea bag there.
Must remember that. Can I write that down?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, go for it. Tommy Cooper, did he not famously die live on stage?
He did. London Palladium, Royal Variety performance. Yeah, I was watching it. Horrific. Yeah, everyone thought that he was doing part of his act.
Yeah.
A surprised expression on his face, and down he collapsed, and everyone was going, "Hey, fantastic! Hey, brilliant!"
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's you drinking there, Fraser? What's that you're drinking?
A nice little whiskey.
All right.
I'll try and pronounce this properly. Daluan. It's spelled Dailuane.
Show us on your very fancy camera here.
Well, it will be back to front.
No, it won't.
No. It looks back to front to you, but and a little closer, if you could, to your lens.
It won't focus.
Closer to the lens, I might have to focus the damn thing.
Because he's using such a fancy camera. He's
got a very fancy camera
manually.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Daluane. How are you saying it?
Daluan.
Very good.
No, I've got a whiskey here. Now, I would say this is Bunnahabhain. So I'm not too far off.
No.
I normally have this because when I ask for it at the pub, it's easier.
God. Yeah, fair enough.
And it's got a lovely.
They have whiskies down at your pub.
They do
have whiskey at your pub.
They have whiskey. Actually, you have had whiskey at my house, haven't you?
I have, and I have actually got one of your little hip flasks here.
You have, yeah. I remember that.
Yes.
Got them, Mike?
Harris gin.
There you go.
That's a Scottish gin.
That's my tipple for the evening. That one.
Good one. But I know you've got the Kirkavea there.
Oh, you do you? Which this one?
Yes.
That's probably close to my all-time favourite. Is this particular bottle of Kirkavea, distilled in Kirkwall in Orkney, and a veritable 57% proof.
Other islands are available.
Yeah, but they're not as good.
Because our guest is from Scotland, I've got a couple of particular favourite gins that we're going to make up. One is the Harris gin, and then I'm also later going to make one Kirkavea gin. The Harris gin is from the Isle of Harris, and I was very privileged to actually go and visit the distillery a few years ago whilst on Tour de Vet, riding around Scotland. And the guys at the Harris distillery made me feel very, very welcome indeed, and I was able to send a couple of bottles home with me. What's interesting about this is the Harris gin is brewed with sugar kelp, which gives it an interesting flavour, and there are a number of ways that we can offset that. One of them is with traditional limes, but what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to use grapefruits. So, out with our nice large ball of ice. Harris sugar kelp gin. I'm doing this slightly differently this evening. Ordinarily I prepare the glass, but I want that gin to get nice and cool because it's so really hot tonight. So just a quick zest of grapefruit, let that go around there, remembering that the whole sensation is smell as well as flavour. I'm also going to just cut a corner off this grapefruit, just add just a few drops in there, just to bring the flavour out. You can mix it with the sugar kelp essence, but I haven't got any sugar kelp essence and I prefer a fruit base to bring those botanical flavours out. I match that this evening with a very mild, straightforward tonic. My favourite again is the Fever Tree. It's a diet tonic. I'll just dribble that down there, aerating and mixing as we go. So there is Harris sugar kelp gin with a nice neutral tonic, offsetting the botanicals with grapefruit. Cheers! And especially for you, Fraser, because as I understand it, you come from Orkney yourself, which is where my favourite gin currently comes from, which is the Archangel, Kirkova, and this obviously comes from the Orkney Isles. I went there on tour de vet at the same time as I went to the Harris distillery. They wouldn't let me in. But anyway, never mind, I've discovered it since. So, this one is beautiful overproof gin. It's 57% proof, and so doesn't need a great deal to offset it. It's got a delightful orange, hint of orange running through as one of the main botanicals. It's almost a bitter orange. So what I'm going to do with that is enhance that again with the zest. Just carve that down there. A little bit of orange in. Now this is equally good straight over ice, like this. Cheers. Oh, the orange flavours burst into the mouth. I'm just going to put just a drop of tonic in there, so I've got a slightly longer drink for this evening's show. So, let's get back to the show. Thank you, Fraser, as if you had anything to do with the distilling of Archangel, but it's a jolly nice island.
While we're talking about drinks from up there, if you're going for whiskey, don't go for the default Highland Park. Go for Scapa.
Scapa, where the flow is.
Yes.
What, where we scuppered the German fleet after the First World War?
Don't mention the war.
Too late. I think we got off with it. It's all right.
Mentioned it once, but I think we got away with it all right.
I think we got away with it. I think we got away with it. Yeah.
Good. Excellent.
We're
getting
a
a
lot
lot
to
have, aren't we?
I'll just drink.
So, hey, should we do some CPD? Because
What do then?
we'd like to go. Well, I was thinking actually of asking Fraser about how CT and MRI are going. If I was to want a CT scanner, how would I go about doing it? Would I have to get a whole new room built?
Well, if you've got space for it, you just need to lead line it. Your RPA will confirm what you need to do to that. And have a control room. And as long as you've got 3-phase power of the correct level, then you can have that. Or you could put one of our CT pods out the back.
But tell us about this CT pod.
Yeah. Well, it's a modular building that can be transported by truck. So it's
one of those containers.
10 meters. It's not. It looks like a container. It isn't a container. It's built from ground up for us because the floor has got to be strengthened for where the CT scanner is. Because you imagine the forces, the centrifugal forces on the gantry rotating 0.3 of a second for it to rotate, and it's quite a weight. then the floor's got to be quite stable to cope with the weight. But not only that, it's got to suppress any vibration, because that'll cause artifact if you've got vibration. So these pods are built from the ground up for us. They're lead lined and they're insulated. They've got the nice sort of easy wipe down interior walls. Space in there for your team and an animal, obviously. Anesthetic equipment, plus a good sized viewing room. So effectively, it is a one-stop shop. You have the whole lot dropped into your car park.
And are many people using these now? Because they're getting more popular, aren't they?
Yeah, we've got a few. We've got them all over the country. In fact, we've got them in the Highlands of Scotland. They've got heaters in them, and down south where they've got air conditioning in them.
And presumably up north, what the CT scans are black and white, and down south the colour, or?
Now you see, this is. They're all black and white until you put the colour lookup tables on. Change it to vascular, and then you get the magic vascular flow and everything on it.
So it's all derived in black and white.
The main image comes out in black and white,
right?
And then you depending on what, if you're doing a 3D, as someone once called them, a Barbie image, 3D rendering of them, a volume image, which they maybe aren't diagnostically great, but if you're doing a reconstruction of a limb.
So Mike's doing his Barbie impression there to people who can't watch this, and it's very, very good, very good.
Sorry, Fraser. Sorry.
Yeah, I lost. You've completely thrown me from my train of thought now.
I need another gin to carry on.
Me too.
Yeah, but you can apply different filters, and if you build up a 3D model, you get skin. You can peel back the different layers, and that's when there's some levels of color in there as well. You can have an arterial setting which applies various colors to it. Good, you got it in a glass here. Well done. The Barbie images are 3D, and they're ideal if you're rebuilding a joint and you actually want to plan for it. So for the orthopedics, it's fantastic. So they're actually starting to do that and then do 3D models, 3D printing.
I was going to say, you now have output to 3D printers, don't you from these things? So, because I wanted to repair quite a nasty complex fracture a couple of months back. Well, say a couple of months back, as well before coronavirus, and I actually sent off to a company who produced a 3D model for the fracture. I could practice on doing it. But if you got one of your CT scanners, you can actually output directly to a 3D printer.
Depending on options and things, yeah.
Wow. That's just amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, but I see, I mean, CT, it's not just the big sites that have got it now. It's beginning to filter down as it's becoming slightly more affordable. Certainly more affordable than MRI and more useful for more surgeries more of the time. And if you remember back, Julian, maybe 20 years or so, when ultrasound was first making a big splash, then it was the bigger sites that had it first. I'm not talking about little portables. I'm talking about the color Doppler systems, and they were buying what the hospitals had maybe 5 years ago, and they're buying the refurbished ones. And it started to filter down that every site had those. Yeah. And CT, to an extent, is going to go the same way. And as more and more sites are, maybe not the ones that are in town, they're starting to think about moving out to specifically built, purpose-built surgeries. They're planning to have CT in them, whether now or longer term. They're just making the provision for it.
So, Mike, it was Fraser who really got me into ultrasound.
All right.
Because I was working at a practice in Rains Park,
right,
and the boss bought a refurbished system. And then I phoned you up, didn't I, Fraser, and said, look, we've got this machine, but actually, I think, I'm probably wrong because I'm crap at using it, but I think we can probably get more out of this machine. Would another probe be any good? And I hung up, and there was this tap on my shoulder, and it was Fraser who'd rushed down from Scotland and said, I think you might like this one here. And he plugged it in, and it went from there, didn't it?
It is. And to be fair, a lot of it, with ultrasound, and being serious about this, with ultrasound, there's a lot of people got equipment and they're just not getting the best out of it. because they're not trained how to use the equipment properly. And they really ought to be. They probably have been trained, or the staff that were there when the scanner was delivered by the supplier were probably trained. But staff do change, and they need to be trained properly. And if you've got a piece of equipment there and some new person comes in and goes, I don't know how to use it, switches it on, tries to use it, doesn't get the best out of it, oh, I'm not going to use that, it's rubbish. And that's not the case at all. It's education's required.
It is.
We can
exactly the same with your multimeters, isn't it, Mike?
Yeah, it's the same in anaesthesia as well. I think I can give you an example of that, Fraser, which I found quite offensive at the time. Was that I was doing a series of lectures for a large British veterinary organisation, and it was mentioned that I'm not a vet or a nurse, and therefore, how could I answer any clinical questions? What we were talking about hardware and how you use the hardware. And as a person who has, how can I say this politely, patents in pulse oximetry and has invented blood pressure measuring equipment that is now routine, taken for granted, I found that quite offensive. Whereas any professor can stand up and talk to me or lecture me about one of my inventions and tell me why it doesn't or doesn't work. But that's another story, isn't it?
It was quite insulting. In fact, in the end, we did a double-handed lecture.
We did a two-up session, wasn't we?
Do people confuse you guys in lectures? Can you double for each other?
Oh yeah, often. Yeah.
Yeah, except Mike knows what he's talking about.
Is this when you're hanging from a rescue helicopter off some hillside somewhere? Yeah.
I've had a bit of practice in that. Right. Yeah.
Well, the irony there.
My SPO2 on that rescue helicopter was 67%. That wasn't good.
And why were you? Where were you?
I was seeing in black and white then. This was Mont Blanc.
Right.
But first time I tried it.
Right.
I was
a hobby of mine. Is wilderness and extreme medicine.
Yes. Yeah.
And I go on courses to study and work on that one.
Well, you should have been with me then. I had a horrible time. I was doing a climb just off the side of Mont Blanc. I think it was called the Tower. A long time back. And my climbing buddy said to me, "Okay, Jules, loosen the green rope." And I thought, "What is he talking about? Green? Oh, one sort of grey and black, and the other's black and grey."
Oh, wow.
I said, "Timmy, what do you mean green?" He said, "Oh shit." He said, "Are you all right?" I said, "I'm fine. I'm fine." I said, "Look, I'll take a couple of steps back and see if I can see this green rope." He said, "No, you're on a cliff." And at that point, I don't think I remember that quite clearly, that I couldn't remember what colours were. And I think then I suddenly realised I couldn't really take a deep breath either.
Ooh.
And there then came a 4-hour walk up to the point at which we could get some phone reception and he could phone for a helicopter. But it was not a good time. And I remember the Italian helicopter pilots arriving and paramedics and getting a pulse oximeter on me. And I was saying, "There's a friend of mine does these for veterinary patients." And it showed 67%. I said, "Oh, that's not good." Yeah, it's not good. So he said, "I give you diuretic, give you diuretic." And so he gave me this injection. He said, furosemide. It's good. You'll be fine. And he gave me an injection of furosemide. And then being Italian paramedics on the top of Mont Blanc, they just sat around smoking for a while. I have no idea why. And then 20 minutes later, they said, "Okay, we go." I said, "Well, feeling a lot better, but clearly I need to go to hospital. There's something wrong with me, but I need to pee. You're giving me a huge dose of furosemide, and I need to pee." "Well, there's no toilet." I said, "Well, no, but I can't actually stand, and you can't put me in a helicopter because I will wet the helicopter. So I had to do what I can only describe as a Pythagoras P against this helicopter, with my body as the hypotenuse. So that's my brush with true pulse oximetry in extreme situations.
So you got a free ride off Mont Blanc in an Italian helicopter?
Yeah.
Why don't you just phone them up and ask them, why do you have to go to these extreme lengths and have injections? And
I bet it was an Augusta.
Pretty big one, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
But getting back to the ultrasound, I've done some lecturing for you along the way and teaching. And the one thing that always surprises me is you go to a practice and you say, okay, right, I'm here to help you get a bit more out of your ultrasound machine. So where's your ultrasound machine? And they say, no, it's in a cupboard somewhere. It's one of those portable ones. Now, where is it? You're not going to fucking use it. It's in a cupboard. It's going to take you half an hour to get it out. Leave it out. Okay, leave it out of the cupboard. Leave it ready, and then you use it during a consult. You use it,
and that's why the refurbished ones are the best. The
Yes.
larger, you're not going to miss them. They're always ready. The probes are always plugged in.
Absolutely.
If you can see a piece of equipment, you will use it.
Yeah, I love it. I use mine, not quite all day, but I use it every day, many, many times, and I love it. It's fantastic. It's a wonderful machine.
I've been during the COVID period, I've been helping out by manning the phones in the office, being the receptionist. Those of you who phoned us you get me. Your luck's in. And
did you have to wear a kilt for that, Fraser?
I'm not standing up, okay. But what I was going to say is that I've been answering the phone for the company and doing some, passing on any faults or people looking for advice or anything to the service coordinators, be that X-ray or ultrasound. And I had a belter yesterday from, I'm not going to name the site, but it's medical, it's not veterinary. And it was the medical physics department. And they phoned to say, I'm after some advice. We've had some complaints from the users that there's banding in the image. And I thought, I don't need to pass this on. I'm not going to pass this one on. I'm going to be the technical support man here today. So I thought, okay, what really seems to be the issue is the banding from the top or to the bottom, or side to side. Oh, side to side, and it follows the curve of the image. So it's a convex probe. Yes. Right. I had to make it sound like it was going through some testing to find out what the problem was. Could you just look at the gain sliders? Someone had turned one of them down. They didn't even think about adjusting the gain.
I did a day's training at a practice in Durham a few months back, and that was an HTL 5000 actually. Mm-hmm. And I said to them, okay, look, so what I've done is turn the machine on. I put all of the gain back to midline.
Yeah.
And there was this.
Don't touch those.
We had those set up specially. So, well, you'll adjust them for each one. No, we found the one that works for us.
It's so important with ATLs to set those when you change preset or probe to have them in the middle.
Always in the middle. Yeah. Otherwise, you'll never get it right.
No. It's really strange.
So, Fraser, could you summarise that then as the four most important or the four prominent controls to optimize your ultrasound use?
They will be as long as the supplier, me, has set up the presets properly for the job that you're doing and you've chosen the right preset for the abdomen. As long as you worked out that's a cat and the cat abdomen preset if you're doing the abdomen, and you worked out small, medium, or large dog, and making sure you're getting the depths for the preset correspond to what you're actually scanning on the animal. then the four main controls are depth, to just optimize what you're seeing, the depth on screen, what depth you're
This
looking
is
at.
the depth of penetration.
Yep, absolutely. How far from the skin line you're looking in.
So the relative size, in fact, we could do this live. So if you're looking at it this way, it would be better.
Yeah. Well,
if you
subject
know,
dependent.
yeah.
Here's another way of looking at it.
Well, apart from
You have got 4 presets. You're doing an abdomen. You've got cat abdomen, small dog, medium dog, and large dog abdomen. You've got 2 dogs to come in for a scan. You've got a little, I don't know, let's call it a Westie, and then you've got an obese Rottie. But you're going to scan an abdomen, a general abdomen. What preset do you choose for the Westie? You've got cat, small dog, medium dog, large dog.
I know.
Hit me with it.
Can I choose either a cat or a small dog, please?
Small dog would probably be the preferable choice for that. Right, drag in the reluctant large dog who hates being scanned. What preset are you going to use for doing a general abdominal scan there? Yes, Julian.
Large dog, Fraser?
Yeah, absolutely right. Okay, so now we're moving on. We've done a little bit of scanning of the abdomen. We're going to move up to the kidney.
Oh, okay.
Oh, so back onto the Westie. What preset are you going to use?
I know.
Hit me with it.
Small dog.
You are indeed. This big dog's been dragged back in again to look at the kidney. What preset are you going to use? And I think we'll go for Mike on this one.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you've got the mic so far.
What was the question again?
We've dragged in the big dog again, and we're going to look at its kidney.
Oh, could I?
Trick question, Mike. Trick question.
Oh,
you'd know the answer.
Let's see. I think there might be a clue in the question. Could I set it as a big dog?
You could, but then you'd have to adjust the depth, the focus, the frequency again. Because the kidney is a superficial structure, you'd be better off setting it to the small abdomen setting, which is already set. So it's only going to look a small distance in.
Question. Does this actually change the frequency of the probe?
The depth
it can do, depending on the machine.
Right, okay. The only reason I asked that is because we build the cat Doppler for taking blood pressure. So we're looking for peripheral vessels that are lying millimeters below the surface. They're millimeters big and they're millimeters below the surface. So we use an 8 megahertz probe for that because there isn't the depth of penetration. We also build a Doppler, or the original cat Doppler was produced as an aortic embolism detector for humans. So what we were looking for there were air bubbles in the aorta. So we're looking at about, 10 centimeters deep. And we used 5 megahertz for that.
Yes.
And in the same factory, we also build fetal Dopplers, which seemingly now pregnant mums can buy on the internet, on eBay, for listening to their unborn baby's heartbeats. And those are 2 megahertz, because what we're looking for
much deeper
is a depth of penetration to get down to the fetal heartbeat, and not necessarily the umbilicus. But so is that the same in ultrasound scanning?
It is, but you have to be aware that when you're doing a Doppler study, you actually want to use a slightly lower frequency than an imaging frequency for the same given depth.
Right.
So, for example, we're using your 8 megahertz for your very, almost under the skin, superficial study. You probably want to use 12 to 15 for an imaging one.
Right.
And that's why when you the higher end scanners, if you're doing an image, you will image at one frequency, but you'll Doppel at a slightly lower frequency.
Doppel, is that a technical term there, Fraser?
It is now.
Yeah, we're gonna induct it as a technical term. I think it was named after someone Doppler, wasn't it? The Doppler effect, but Doppel's actually quite a good card game. But anyway,
does everybody remember at school clapping against a wall?
No, that was only because you were bad.
It's only in Scotland.
only-
Okay, fair enough.
That's a Scottish.
We have basketball down south. It's very fun.
Yeah, that's because you were naughty and you were standing in the corner and you were
Yeah.
banging against the wall.
Well, you've been naughty. You will go outside, crap against the wall, and learn about Doppler shift.
Well, no, yeah, but the best illustration for Doppler shift is a
Train going past.
isn't it, or a train. Meow. So as it's coming towards you, the sound is compressed, and the sound waves are compressed, so it's a higher frequency. And as it goes away from you, meow.
Yeah. And the
Waves are corresponding.
ultrasound at a very basic level relies on that
Yeah.
to some extent. But it's so much different from
Basically,
the
I'm as
first
Rosie.
ultrasound machines that came out. The what I call the My Little Pony ultrasound machines, the portables that you turn on, and after the valves had warmed up, you'd see the sort of here be dragons,
Yes.
cloudiness. You think, well,
Whoa. My Little Pony, where did you get that from?
that's what we used to call them that, didn't we,
Yeah,
Fraser? The My
toys.
Little Pony ultrasound
Yeah.
machine
My first scanner.
My foot. Right, okay.
from Palitoy. Other shit.
Other ultrasound machines
Other
are
shit
available.
yeah.
God, I can't believe you've done that.
Is Palitoy still going?
Is who?
Palitoy. Do you remember Palitoy? Palitoy used to do these. Hold on, we'll do two versions of this. So Palitoy is still going. Palitoy used to do these very good, really high quality, affordable toys for children. Okay, Palitoy used to do these really shit, made in Hong Kong, crappy toys that never worked.
Palitoy are no more. They actually ceased trading in 1984
Because they were shit.
when they were a British company. When its parent company CPG, part of General Mills, effectively closed its design department, and the rest of it shifted in '85, where it was moved overseas.
They were pretty bad. Really bad stuff. I don't know. Do you get a lot of plastic toys for your daughter? Or you?
No, she's into horses.
You got the expensive one, haven't you? She's in the pony club.
We stopped at one. Yeah, she. I refer to it as the sports cow.
Sports cow.
And she's finally found one that she's really gelled with, and it's an absolute cracker. They've really bonded well. The unfortunate thing is, it's called Babe.
Babe the horse.
Yeah, that in itself, Babe should be a pig, as we all know.
Yeah.
Have you ever stood at a field and shouted for a horse called Babe?
No, I can't say I have.
Yeah. It's
Not
embarrassing.
for a while, at least.
Everyone's calling for Misty or, proper named horses. Diablo, whatever. Babe, come here.
Can't it change its name?
Bad luck.
Poor Fraser, he's going, what have I signed up for here? Oh my God. They told me they were professionals. And
Oh, I knew you weren't. Don't worry.
I've met them both.
I've known you too long.
Right, okay, so you were going to mention four things on ultrasound. You've mentioned one, which is gain.
Well, I would start with depth,
Depth,
then focus. Just like taking a photograph, you focus on the structure of most interest.
focus,
Frequency, to
frequency.
make sure that you make sure that the image is getting enough penetration. The beams are getting enough penetration to see what you need to see. There's no point having a cracking image if you're only seeing 2 or 3 centimeters in because the frequency is too high.
Right.
And everybody will naturally go, oh, I'll use the highest frequency because I'll get the best image. Well, theoretically, that's true, insofar as you'll get the best image of what you can actually see at that depth.
Yep.
Sometimes you've got to compromise and turn the frequency down to get the correct depth of penetration.
Yep.
And then you've got your gain, your overall gain, which turns a whole lot up at once, and those individual little sliders that work from the top to the bottom of the image. You adjust those to you get a uniform image, so it's no bright areas or dark areas where there shouldn't be.
And for people who are at this moment of watching this, playing with that ultrasound machine, that's the TGC or time gain compensators that Fraser's talking about.
So,
Yeah.
in sort of summary of ultrasound CPD, we could say, don't forget the importance of your DFFG.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you go down on the DFFG.
And don't forget to go down with the games.
Absolutely. So,
I worry about that, man.
Hmm?
I worry about that, man, sometimes.
So does that summarise our CPD for this evening?
I think that's quite a good topic, actually.
Yeah.
In controls.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do we bring that to a conclusion?
I think we've actually gained a lot of CPD value here, haven't we? That's brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I absolutely
When
agree.
you focused on the points.
Yeah, I happen to have a CPD certificate to prove that we've done that.
Do you, Julian?
I do. Coincidentally.
Wow.
Shall I show you it?
Well, I presume people viewing could actually download the CPD certificate.
People viewing can download this.
Yes.
It will be available to download from the Facebook page, presumably, or from this
Facebook, Instagram, any of the social media.
any of those things.
The Baldy Guy Trio Night.
Yeah, that's what I thought I'd call it. So it says this is certificate of gained knowledge.
Yes,
This
gained.
You
Yes.
see? Yeah.
Well done.
You see, I was on the ball there.
Yeah.
Certifies the viewer has put up with more insane burbling and some science in Veterinary Ramblings Baldy Guy Trio Night. It says, Julian and Mike, him and me, signed it on this night. And
Can I ask for ultrasound training why there's an X-ray image on it?
No,
Yeah,
you
well,
can't.
I'm
No,
a CT
sorry.
scan.
No, you can't. It's a CT scan. Don't ask that.
And what is that baby holding?
That's my baby. That's using the HDI 3000. That's a great.
I thought it was a male baby from the image, Julian.
And look, that
And that looks like a motorcycle on the other image.
Well, no, see, that is where you have your CT scanner.
Yeah, right.
I couldn't, for legal purposes, I couldn't use the image you have on your website without asking permission. I couldn't be bothered to do that. So there's a CT scanner.
Yeah.
And now you're interested in motorcycling, you see. And I didn't have a picture of a decent motorcycle, but I did have a picture from our homemade Top Trumps pack, which is Greeks on Bikes. And we've been adding to this set of Greeks on Bikes for the last few years. Every time we go on holiday in Greece, we take a picture of interesting people using their motorcycles to their full extent. I think the best one I have so far that I couldn't find for tonight's picture was a priest on a moped with, I believe it was his mother and his sister and his sister's son and an inflatable crocodile and a dog.
Dog probably riding it.
Probably right on the streets of Kos. So Greeks on Bikes. Now, you see, I only say that because I thought it might segue quite nicely after we've done the CPD reflection. It might segue quite nicely into your motorcycling habits.
Well, I actually looked up a few things about you guys.
Look, hang on. Whoa. Wait a second, because in order for us to get this past the RCVS, we have to make sure that it's a very definitive CPD section. And so, we've done the CPD.
Yeah, we've done some brilliant CPD. Thanks very much for that.
Fantastic, absolutely superb. And I've learned a lot about gain and focus and all that stuff. And Julian's done a certificate, which I'm not sure they're going to actually accept. But if you're watching this and you went to log this in as your CPD in your CPD diaries, then screen grab the certificate that Julian has shown you and present that to the RCVS. I'm sure they will allow that. But of course, the final part of CPD, Fraser, I'm sure you're aware is that you have to pause for reflection.
You can't just do CPD.
You can't just rock up. You can't just rock up to a dinner, have your food, listen to some guy chatting about case studies or anything like that. You actually have to reflect on your CPD. So,
and we do that. This is one thing that Veterinary Ramblings do.
We
Just
do
to
do
ensure
this.
that our viewers, our listeners,
Yep.
get good quality CPD
Yep.
that is registrable. So we're gonna reflect now.
We're going to reflect on our CPD. He's pouring himself a drink.
I'm reflecting.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Have we finished reflecting, Mike? Because it's not a bad thing, is it, to pour another drink?
Well, I don't know. I could do with another drink. I could do some orange in my kick of a...
What I think our producer can do is to extend that
Yeah,
reflection.
she could cut all
Yeah,
of this
yeah,
out.
absolutely.
That'll
So
be
brilliant.
fine. Yeah, okay, right, okay.
So,
Right,
so what
okay,
we'll do is we'll say, "What a great reflection there. Well done, guys.
That's
Fantastic."
fantastic. Very, very good. I'm glad to see you paid a lot of attention there, Fraser.
I'm going to have the
Absolutely.
Okay, I need a bit more ice to go with my kickover because that's quite a strong.
That's a good measure, Julian.
It's a tiny glass.
Oh,
It's a teeny tiny
like the look of
glass.
that.
Teeny tiny. But now I'm old fashioned, and I've been told always that you need a tiny drop of water. Is that
Oh,
right?
stop. Try it first. Before you even put the water in, try it first.
Now, Graham told you this. Graham told you all about this the other day.
Yeah, great. Graham said add some water. So here we go.
No, he didn't.
There we go. That's enough. That's enough.
It depends what it is. If it's it depends what it is, really. And it depends what you want from it.
I want to not have an anesthetized tongue.
Is this
I was worried that your CPD was going to be about yes.
anesthetics? No,
That's the one.
No, we discovered that most of our audience fall asleep when we talk about anaesthesia.
I don't drink gin.
Do you not?
Do you know what?
No
I
need.
don't actually drink gin.
What?
I thought we said drink. Do you know?
Well, I quite enjoyed it when Graham sent us whiskey samples, and I was sort of
Johnny,
Did you not receive yours?
I was secretly hoping that Fraser would do the same. But
Well, did you not receive yours?
Not yet.
no, Fraser.
No, unless you send them to one of us who hasn't passed them on.
I just sent them to the jugs, and that was it.
Julian,
Anyway, let's move on.
Julian,
So,
no, wait, whoa! Did you not pass on the whiskey samples that Fraser sent down? Could we be doing a? He sent a bottle down as well, didn't he? He sent a bloody bottle of each down. None of this.
Julian, what have you done?
I didn't know with lockdown what I was supposed to do. You know, can I send it on? Can I not? Can I? No one said. I asked Boris. He said, "Send it on. Don't send it on. Don't drink it. Don't drink it. Absolutely drink it within a meter, but actually leave it for 2 meters and tell you and put some protection over it. Wear a condom in your mouth and then drink it. And you'll be absolutely fine." So I wasn't totally certain what to do with it, so I just drank it.
Fraser, don't worry, Fraser. I've got a penalty for that. There we go. That's just you.
There you go.
Yeah, stick him in the bloody waiting room.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers to you, sir. There we go.
He's sitting on a naughty step somewhere, isn't he?
Yeah, he's sitting on the naughty step. He knows.
There we go. Yes, fair enough.
That's for drinking my whiskey.
I hear a glass of whiskey, Mike. Sorry. So anyway, moving on. Motorbikes.
Yeah, Fraser said he'd been doing some research on it.
Well, actually, the motorbike thing segues quite well. That's your ramblings. Don't panic. I'm not panicking. They're here. I hadn't realised that you had tried but failed in a challenge of circumnavigating the world on a motorised unicycle. When did you do that?
Who?
You, Mike.
What?
You tried to circumnavigate the world on a unicycle, motorised, but failed. Well, why
Mike,
did
you never
fail?
told me about this. When was this?
It's back in my youth. I mean, yeah, the motor gave out.
Was this before or after getting the ski speed record? Because you did get a ski
No, I
speed
didn't.
record, didn't you?
No, I didn't. I missed it by 7 kilometres an hour.
Eddie the Eagle overtook you, didn't he?
Oh,
Only 'cause he was
bless
in
him.
the car.
I can actually tell you a story about Eddie, bless him. Because at the time that Eddie was reapplying for his jumping licence, I was part of the British Ski Federation. And the British Ski Federation were just about, well, we were a gnat's whisker from signing a very lucrative deal with a Scottish distiller to support a number of very good and promising downhill ski racers. And unfortunately, the way that the whole ski industry and the ski federations are organised, anybody representing the British Ski Federation, so that included racers from Scotland as well as the UK, everybody came under that same umbrella. So whether you were a slalom racer, a downhiller, a cross-country racer, a biathlete, those guys that do cross-country on skis and then shoot their rifles, mainly the domain of the army.
Was that shoot their rivals?
Rifles.
Rifles, sorry, I misheard.
Rifles,
Yeah.
yeah. That would add a bit of excitement to it, wouldn't it?
A bit of a spurt on there, wouldn't you?
3 pot shots at your rival coming round the corner.
Here's Klaus.
The machine gun.
That was an Italian job quote, wasn't it?
Yeah,
It was when he was picking up the cart from the garage.
It was. You must have shot a lot of tigers.
I used a machine gun.
I think there's a little bit of a tweak needed in the second carburetor.
Yes, I'll just lean over and get you a door.
He does that better than you does.
He does.
Yeah, he does. But so anyway, it came to the vote as to whether we would allow Eddie the Eagle to continue flopping off the end of his ski jumps, or whether we would bow to the Scottish pound and remove what they considered to be the laughing stock of the British Ski Federation by taking his licence away.
Really?
And it's actually, if you watch the film, it's covered in the film. But I have to say that the committee meeting and the meetings that he talks about in the Hollywood movie of Eddie the Eagle didn't actually go that way. But yeah, we strategically voted that we would accept the money from the Scottish distiller, and that enabled British downhilling to move on to a whole new level. And that was the end of Eddie the Eagle's career.
That's a shame. He's a brave guy.
Listen, don't take anything away from the guy. I stood at the top of one of those ski jumps without skis on, and as a speed skier, we were known for throwing ourselves down cliffs, trying to beat gravity. There's no way on earth I would have put myself anywhere near one of those ramps.
No, me either. I've done similar. I've stood at the top, and someone said, "Would I even go on one of the shorter ones?" And no.
I struggle with the Go 8 courses. But Julian, you talked about your degree, your biology, your training in biology. But I had read on the internet that before that you trained as an astronaut for the Peruvian space mission.
I like to keep that quiet.
I had no idea about it.
It was a dark time in my life. We had to train a Peruvian guinea pig as no, that's not me. I won't. You're buggered up. Who is that? What?
Oh, I mean, I also said that you were fluent in many languages, including the Khoisan click.
I'm not even.
That's it. Hello.
I'm not even fluent in English.
Especially not after drinking that Booney Hill.
Especially not the Haven.
I don't know what you're talking about, Mike. You play a lot of wind instruments, including I believe, the rather obscure gadja.
Oh,
A bagpipe made from a goat or a sheep.
only on a Tuesday.
Ah. How's it going?
Very well, thank you.
There's been a lot of Tuesdays in lockdown, haven't there?
There's been a lot of Tuesdays in lockdown. That's for sure.
Full of wind.
Where'd you get all this stuff from, Fraser?
Well, it was on the internet. I googled it.
Oh, okay.
Well, you'd never catch us doing anything like that and getting it wrong, would you?
No.
Absolutely
Well,
Certainly not.
well,
Yeah, well, what's your favourite spider? Let's see if it tallies with what the internet said, Mike.
Arachnida, the spider. Well, that would have to be the Black Widow, of course.
Well, it conflicts. They say it's the Brazilian wandering spider.
Oh, right, okay. And what reference is this particularly then, Fraser?
Wikipedia, I wrote it.
So I want to segue from that to back to the bikes because Fraser, you built a bike or you restored a bike, didn't you?
I did, yes. Well, I bought a few.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on a minute.
Oh,
I did sell one last week. I sold one last week.
You sold one of them.
I sold one last week.
Which
I just feel I'm out of this conversation because I don't. I've got a push bike, but I would be dangerous on a motorbike.
Yeah, so would I, to be honest.
Well, I've heard you race your bike all over the place.
I actually used to use it to go and meet vets and things. It was actually really, really useful. But
Yeah, I've done that.
but nowadays you've got to take kit with you and things, so it doesn't really work that well.
Well, I don't know. I've got big panniers on the back of my bike, so I just put this kit in the.
Yeah, ultrasound scanners are a different kettle of fish. If you get that picture back on, Mike.
You want me to share that picture back there?
Yeah. Mike rides a BMW, and I told him, I asked him if he knew what the difference between a BMW and a Moto Guzzi was, and he didn't know.
Oh, the fool! Good heavens!
Yeah. Well, a BMW is simply a Moto Guzzi with saggy tits.
Let me explain that for viewers. I'm showing a picture here of Fraser on his Cafe Racer Moto Guzzi, and the cylinders, both BMWs and Moto Guzzis, are shaft drive twins.
So is that what's called a V shape?
That's a V-twin.
This is a V-twin. So
The
Moto
best
Guzzi
format.
is a V-twin, whereas a BMW that I ride is a flat opposing twin.
Right.
In other
So
words,
what's the difference?
instead of the cylinders being up like that,
Yeah. So again, for people listening to this who haven't got video, the carburetors, which are those chunky little things on the side of the bike, are either set at a V shape or
No,
not the carburetors.
That's the cylinders.
That's
the cylinders. Sorry, cylinders.
Yeah.
I do apologize.
Yeah.
So I've instantly shown how little I know about it.
Well, the other thing, Mike, how old's your bike, Mike?
Mine, it's probably 10, 12 years old.
That's all right because it's still air cooled.
Yeah.
Whereas the modern ones are water cooled ones masquerading as air cooled ones.
So I used to drive an air cooled vehicle.
It was a Hillman Imp, wasn't it?
Oh, it's two CV, a Dushever.
That was fantastic. I used to love that.
In fact, you
Two cylinders as well.
opposing.
When I used to say mine's a pint, I was referring to my car. It was 494 cc. Brilliant.
Our bikes are double that, really, aren't
More than double that.
The 60 was not applicable.
Hang on, Fraser, wait a second. This isn't the time to go, how big are your cylinders? I don't think that's appropriate, and Julian will get all upset.
Yeah, but yours have flopped down.
Well, they may have flopped down, but each one is the size of his whole car engine. I mean,
It was. I learned to weld because of my 2CV.
I got
And
run
you're
over.
still applying that in veterinary practice today.
In fact, once to make it home, I needed to drill through the chassis of my car and screw a bit of 2x4 to the base of it to drive home. Brilliant.
Back in the day, there were a lot of those cars around Sheffield, which is where I went to college. And one evening, myself and 3 or 4 friends were run over by a 2CV. We were walking down from I don't know, we'd had a few, and we were walking in the middle of the road, and this 2CV basically ploughed through us. I went over the bonnet. One of my other friends ended up on the bonnet. One friend went off the side, crushed the wing onto the tyre, onto the wheel, and got his leg run over. But hey, that's not a problem, because not only were these things only 420, how many cc?
494.
494 cc. They only weighed about 3 kilograms anyway.
They're tiny. The
so
problem is, sorry, yeah.
What we did was the next day, because this guy just drove off. So he just ploughed into 4 students and drove away. What we did over the weekend, I think it was Friday night, I can't remember, was we went round. We literally walked the streets of Sheffield until we found this 2CV. And we knew it because the front wing was collapsed across the tyre. The bonnet was crushed across the engine block, and it had only got one windscreen wiper where my pal had pulled it off as he was trying to hold on for grim death as this guy ploughed into us. He hit us about 30 miles an hour. We were all fine. The car was wrecked, and we felt so sorry for the guy. We sort of sent a little note going, "We're really sorry we wrecked your car when you ran us over."
So, Fraser, brilliant to hear about all the stuff you're doing with Myers. Fantastic. The CT scanning, the MRI scanning and things.
Yeah.
And we're loving that and hoping that Myers is going to carry on doing everything it's doing and more for the foreseeable future. I normally end, if that's okay, Mike, I normally end with a joke with these podcasts. And I've been struggling to think of a joke that would encompass what we've been talking about, because we've been talking a whole load of rubbish, and no, we haven't.
It's been educational.
Educational. I can't think of any real ultrasound jokes, but I've got a couple of jokes that could fit, and one of which is the old motorcycle joke. I'm sure you know this, about the guy who's biking down from California to meet a friend in Florida, and he bikes down. I've no idea how long it takes. But say 2 days later, he's got his friend in Florida.
It's not down; it's across, Julian.
Is it across? So I know it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And actually, it works. The joke works. The joke works. So this guy bikes down to Florida, and goes to a pop concert in Florida. And what he doesn't realise is on his moustache there's a little pubic louse. And as is at this pop concert, this little pubic louse gathers with all the other lices. He sees his friend Bill. He says, "Hey, mate, I've just driven down from California." He says, "How are you?" He says, "Yeah, it's great. Bloody cold, I tell you that. It's freezing all the time." So why is that? I mean, all this biker's moustache. We're going 110, whatever. It's bloody cold. The wind bursting through. Really unpleasant stuff. He said, "That's no good. It's no good, mate. You shouldn't live like that. It's awful." What I did, I got onto an air hostess, out there, and got into the bush, the cross bush there. They're fantastic. You need to do that. Get into an air hostess. Crawled up the leg, get into the bush. They'd be absolutely fine and warm. I said, okay, I'll try that next time. Anyway, the next year they meet up. And he said, how you doing? I'm freezing. I mean, driving through from California. I thought I told you to crawl up an air hostess's leg. Be nice and warm there. He said, I did. As soon as you told me that, I did. I crawled up to the air hostess's leg, into the knickers. Fantastic. Really nice and warm. Snoozed off. Next thing, I woke up. I'm in this bloody motorbiker's moustache, driving down from California. Now, I didn't know whether we could.
Julian,
we may not be able to show that. You know.
Julian, can you not come up with a decent bloody joke?
I can't.
On that note, Julian, seriously,
Yes.
Fraser, Yule, Myers, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
I'll raise a glass to you there, and may your dog go with you.
May your dog
I'll go with you.
go with you.
Cheers. If
Yes.
you've enjoyed what you've seen tonight, don't forget to click below, like, share, spread the news, and join us for next week's episode of Veterinary Ramblings.
Hey Fraser, thank you so much for coming on tonight.
No, it's actually been a bit of a riot, actually.
Have you enjoyed yourself?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Good.
You always wonder, what are these things going to be like?
Yeah.
But you soon think, actually, it's just three blokes having a chat.
It is. And we've done a bit of CPD. We've done some interesting stuff, haven't we?
Mm.
I've had a good night. It's been
I never realised you trained as an astronaut, Julian.
I don't like to brag, you know,
No, but the Peruvian space mission. Why the Peruvians?
because they're used to flying with guinea pigs and the height thing, and it just worked out.
Where did you make that up from?
I don't know.